Hi, this is sort of the first real video that I'm doing that's intended for sort of, public, general population consumption. In terms of my attempt to appear clean shaven, washed, dressed and sitting upright sort of thing. So anyway, to be taken seriously, let's say. Note about videos about Nazism and this war, the Second World War that this country was involved in, and the sort of latter day, let's say, conception of Nazis as a paedophile in terms of its effect when used in conversation, or homosexual. The thoughts and schemas and narratives that it draws out of people's imagination and mentality and education, culture and experiences in their lives, I mean, we all have to judge by our own standards. Many times you tell people you shouldn't. Well, of course, everybody does. But this Nazi narrative or label, identity, if you will, sort of appeared to die with the submission of the Nazi Party of Germany in 1945, I think. And of course, it hasn't died at all. It's just carried on and moved on into much more subliminal and harder to uncover and evidence ways. The Nazi is merely a mode of thought and a way of behaving, a way of seeing yourself and other people, and your position of superiority or otherwise in relation to those people. And you're the Nazi, that person, that Nazi's conception and perception of the other person or group that they take umbrage to, don't like or don't want in the world. And it's a narrative that includes this destruction, extermination component. And it's not only, it's not died. None of that's died, that mentality. That's just a person. That's just the way a person's brought up. Their experiences, as I say. Judge anything. You're judging it by your own standards, and nothing else. You can't judge anything by anything apart from your own experience and intellectual awareness, cultural experience, background, and preferences, of course, as an adult. And so, this word Nazi is not a thing, it's not a person, it's not an object. It's a way of being, it's a way of seeing things and feeling things and intending things to others. It's a way of expressing you as a person. And of course that's not died out at all. In fact, if anything, it's become more pernicious, more specific in its direction and power to unite in a directed, concerted effort to destroy whatever demographic it is that particular epoch or chapter, let's say, of Nazis prefer to punish and exterminate. And of course, it varies. There's Nazi racists, want to kill all the black people. There's Nazi homophobes who want to kill all the gay people or bisexual people. There's Nazi, and etc. The women, there's Nazi men who do kill women. Because kind of a solitude of like inability to coalesce with other Nazis who could collectively get together and do it in a much more clandestine and, you know, risk-free way. The police force has its own special percentage of Nazi employee. I mean, still to this day, it's a common thing to think about the police, isn't it? It's a common way to... It's a common currency in any discussion about the police. In the United Kingdom, that is. That's all I can speak about. That they are Nazis. And of course, not all of them are Nazis. But some of them are. A lot of them are. You know. And by the same toss of the other side of that coin, we perceive can't remember what I was going to say. There's a demographic of the general public that I can't. So anyway, that's the point I was trying to make. That there's groups of people in society who are Nazi and feel comforted by the presence of respect for, or rather, you know, obtaining the reproduction of the respect for Nazi control, officialdom, police officers, the tax office, DVLA, you name it, whichever particular part of the apparatus of state apparatus it is that we're concerned about at that particular time, we come across a Nazi, whether it's Metropolitan and some Joe Hinton or somebody, a new manager who wants to sweep clean and make an impression for themselves by sacking half a dozen people they take an instant dislike to, you know. And this is all about power. And this is the point as well, is that the people who crave power often, in fact, usually obtain it, and need that, or the drive for that power in their position in life is a Nazi-driven desire in the psychology of man and woman. And if it's not a police officer, it's the staff trainer at the McDonald's family restaurant. It's the sweeping cleaner bin man who's driving a big wagon, big lorry along the road and stays in the middle of the road and no one can get past. And he or she is an Nazi. Sometimes express Nazism by the way they have such contempt, disrespect for people or road users or pedestrians for that matter. There's every epoch, every area of life and employment and work, you know, you find a Nazi. Now, all I'm trying to say is that there shouldn't be a distinction, not as clear as there obviously is at the moment, between the Nazis of 1939 to 45, apparently, as fuck you live. Long time before that, long time after, always humanity, spotted humanity. And today's Nazi, that sits in a fucking wheelchair and has a fucking light on his ass to light up when somebody 50 yards away walks around. The PIR is that powerful. It's that well funded and resourced. The surveillance equipment. The trailer with the trailer cop lock on it on the corner of his road. And his house, his car, which is an average car. You know, and there's no street light in the whole cul-de-sac at night. You know, to exist in absolute comfort. It's the most comforting and comfortable state of being to be. Is a controlling fucking Nazi freak. Because it's so welcome. People recognise it, respect it, accept it. They know what you're talking about. You want right and wrong. You know what's right and wrong. And so do we. And this is what the, you know, danger of sharing a consciousness becomes. Is being very, very aware of and wary of the tendency of the Nazi mentality to latch on to and copy everything or anything that anybody does that they feel threatened by or want as well, like taking somebody's gonads out. You know, I mean, if actuality, though, gassing people wasn't bad enough, then, you know, experimenting on them surgically, like removing the testicles or eyeballs or something while they're alive. You know, if it's Harry Keeson who does it, then he's a schizophrenic, paranoid, locked up on his own. But what happens if that becomes a shared consciousness of supreme domination again? We have to be ever so careful and be aware of the feelings of Nazis and the way they react to each other and recognise each other's legitimacy and place in society as being right, you know. Because, you know, as we all know, it relates to mental health in the terms of, like, watching someone. And the whole Victorian post-Enlightenment Victorian design of asylums and mental asylums and prisons, and like the punitive, the judicial system and the punitive aspect of people's, you know, weakness and insecurities, like advantage and agents by, you know, administered by the courts and the judges, you know, to pack this person away, this sick monster. But what if there was 100,000 of them? Him. And they all ganged up and coalesced and shared information and contact details and schemes and plans. And a whole demographic was wiped out successfully, or a lot of them anyway, you know, for a considerable amount of, well, if that went on for 4, 5 or 6 or 7 years, wonder what damage could be done into, what steps could be taken into absolutely exterminating the particular demographic, gay, lesbian, paedophile, Nazi, lefty, that you wanted to exterminate. You'd get rid of quite a few, wouldn't you? Creative thought, free spirit, And this is, played out through psychiatry in terms of that's the only legitimate base now for the knowledge of think tank and academic, let's say, for want of a better want of a more true expression, the academic and qualified doctorates of Nazism. Absolutely unquestionable. And everybody I've met, most people I've ever met's mine. Are you taking your medication, Peter? You can't have any more liquor. We know you. And so change is not an option if it's total and comprehensive, because it'll draw that attention from the people who cannot change. Can't stop hating you. Me. Him. He, she, it, them. They can't stop hating. And that's the mentality and personality of a Nazi person, somebody who's been forced into dependency and is unable to escape it without help from another person. So if there was to be some, obviously, psychiatrist, and so the public, the general public, subscribe to psychiatry as if there's no other way out of this tinderbox planet of waristers other than to get the psychiatrists involved. And then perhaps, if the doctor's a bit inexperienced, or if the doctor doesn't know what's wrong with someone, they might involve the police as well in a concerted effort. Some more Nazis get in on it. So it's a sharing of consciousness that's spreading outwardly very, very nicely. But we do just have to be ever so careful as a united human thought, full of choice, having a choice, that it doesn't get too out of hand. And people don't, succumb to this so comfortable a place to be a fucking dickhead, or somebody who doesn't tolerate anything or something, or can't stand certain types or some fucking thing else. That it doesn't, it's kept down and under cover if necessary. Or paid for, etc. And that's really the point of it. So it's agencies of the state, full of Nazis in every department. I mean, if it's not that, it's the receptionist at the community mental health headquarters, the telephonist and receptionist. And if someone of any particular group or epoch of people obtains the sort of mantle of some kind of gonk or figurehead or respected feelings and interpretation of things and how things should be, it sometimes might be the cleaner and not the doctor. It might be the laundry worker and not the community psychiatric nurse who spots the danger. To be, cautious about people to be cautious about. In fact, in my experience, thinking about it now, it's usually somebody with their own mental illness, who becomes the gonk and the figurehead, that the fucking people with the power and the money and the authority are keeping down, actually, themselves in that position, but using everything they think about and talk about and express as the emblem of their service and roles in that community that so decries and puts down that gonk of mental illness in support of the group of gonks and Nazis who share that determination to keep that woman down and free the good people. Good, isn't it?